Hi, my name is Audrey Hope Reinhardt, and I wanted to start a series of sort of journal or diary entry type videos where I discuss my experiences as a professional model years ago, both behind the camera now as well as in front of the camera back in my 20s and early 30s. So almost 20 years ago, I started a really amazing journey that's led me to where I am currently, working as a photographer living outside New York City. When I was in my mid-20s, it was around the time the housing market collapsed. There was very little jobs. There were very little jobs. I had very few jobs. I had just finished my bachelor's degree and I was just really struggling to make ends meet, as many people were at that time. The area that I grew up in was kind of a small city. There wasn't a lot of really good housing opportunities and stuff like that. And I had friends who were doing art modeling for colleges and fine arts groups in the Southeast and networking within that community. So I started working as a fine arts sitting model for different schools and groups and individual artists, and I really enjoyed it. And at the time, you would make sometimes $15, $20 per hour, and that felt like a fortune because even with a bachelor's degree in the early 2000s, you were lucky to find a job in a small town that would pay you more than maybe $8 an hour. I was making $6.25 as a grocery store stalker the year that the housing market collapsed. So through that network of people, I ended up meeting a fine arts photographer who was a really nice person. He had photographed some of my friends and one of my housemates at the time, and introduced me to this kind of nationwide network of traveling art models who networked online. There were some different sites that were very active at the time, though those are no longer relevant in the age of social media. So I ended up spending the next, 12 years of my life as a touring arts model. I worked with some amazing photographers, and I got to start learning some of my photography skills from people that I started out modeling for. And at the time, a lot of what was available work-wise for models who were shorter, because I was considered short and old, and in the early 2000s, the aesthetic was, of course, for very, very tall, thin bodies. I never fit in that category. I had more of an hour, or like pear type shape, and was quite athletic. So the work that was available for me was primarily fine art figure work. And there's a lot of taboos surrounding that, and people tend to was gallery quality, sort of more what I would consider artistic or creative work. In fact, I'm going to show you some of that today. Much of this stuff is self-portraiture that I shot in my late 30s after I began shooting my own work. I worked under aliases. When I was modeling for other photographers, it was very important that I did not put that we as a group of models, that we did not put our real names on that work. Most of us never got any sort of real acknowledgement for the work we were doing. And we were flying around the country, we were driving, doing these crazy shoots. I've been suspended upside down by my ankles from railroad trestles. I've been out in the desert. I've been in hundreds of abandonments doing shoots and posing. And I've had artwork all around the world shown of myself as a model, but I never had my real name associated with that because there's a danger in that. Most of it is done nude or partially nude, and there was just this general taboo, especially at that time, surrounding working as an art model. People could, fire you from your job if you had a day job, a lot of other things. But anyway, before you jump to judgment of what that means, I'm going to show you some of my work that I'm very proud of. So I put tape over the body. Sorry, there's a little bit of a glare. so that it is YouTube friendly. As you can see, this is pretty, I wish it was a little less glary. As you can see, this is pretty tame. That's my body right there. I'm going to show you some other stuff. So when I say figure nude work, this is the sort of style I mean. And again, there's tape over the private bits, so you can zoom in all you want, but it's still social media friendly. Okay, and here is my work as a model in another photographer's book. I'm just going to cover any potentially questionable bits up. As you can see, this is a big, thick, full-length book. So you can kind of see what I used to shoot. This is an example of my work as a photographer today. I still carry a really strong fine arts feel to my work. I rarely work with nude bodies, however. At this point, I much prefer working with editorial and fashion styles. That more aligns with my own interests and goals. And living outside of New York now, I've had the experience of getting to work with some really amazing models so far. And I've only been up here about 3 months. I recently moved to this area after a hurricane, actually, in western North Carolina, where I had been living near family, destroyed the gallery that many of my prints were in, and also just generally ravaged that area. And it just, living there was, you know, everybody that got through it tended to have some level of like post-traumatic stress disorder, and it was just a rough driving through the city every day and seeing the destruction, and I needed a change. And that was kind of the impetus I needed to kind of move my career forward, to shut my studio down in North Carolina and move up to New York. And I would like to use this channel and this opportunity, I gave you a little backstory, just to kind of share with viewers some of the wonderful shoots that I get to do, some of my process. You can go see my work at www.audreyreinhart.com. That is spelled AudreyReinhart.com. My Instagram is Audrey Reinhart _photo. AudreyReinhart _photo. I'm wanting also with this channel to really be able to do a little more promotion and hopefully build a little bit of a bigger social network online. Social media and self-promotion has just never really been my strong suit. I consider myself an artist above all else. But I look forward to becoming more confident on video, and I look forward to sharing this wonderful, wonderful adventure with an audience. Thank you so much.